Good morning, John.
Oh, hey, good morning. How are you, John? Good to see you. How are things?
Doing well, doing well. You doing all right?
Yeah, I'm doing well.
What book are you reading? What book are you reading?
Yeah, I'm just catching up on a little Telling Your Data story by Scott Taylor, the Data Whisperer. Really interesting stuff.
Well, pretty exciting news. So guess what? He's our guest today. Let's bring him on. Let's bring him on.
Hey,
welcome back.
How are you? Nice to see you. But look, I want to tell you right up front, I do not care what the CDC says. I'm here for a second dose of J&J.
There you go. There you go. And we wanted to let you know that you have the distinction of being our very first repeat guest.
Really?
So we are excited about that. Welcome back. Welcome back.
I'm on my way to earning my 5-timers jacket.
There you go. There you go.
I think the last time you were on, it was episode 3, and this is episode 23.
There's a pattern.
It's hard to believe that, right? It is hard to believe that.
Hannah, 63, 103. I'll be there. I'm your guy on 3.
So the scary part, Scott, is that when JB and I actually started this thing last year, we didn't realize that like 98.9% of all video casts and webcasts fail. We had no clue of that statistic going into it, which would have probably terrified us, right?
You're in that top 0.000%. Way to go. Wait a minute.
Hey, Scott, how'd you pick out that jacket today? It's nice.
You like this jacket? Yeah, well, I figured you guys were going to do like you're usually in your jackets. Thanks for asking, but I'm all set to whatever works with the background.
Oh my goodness.
This is my official J&J jacket. This is what you guys usually wear. I added the pocket squares my own. I got a stylist now, so that's going on nicely. But I figured for sure. But there you are, just in your Tattersall shirt.
That's right.
And I'm ready either way.
Usually JB and I match.
That's it. Nothing like a nice moire pattern.
There you go. So how have you been, Scott? You doing well?
I've been fantastic here in new Data Whisperer World Headquarters Studio 4G. We moved from Studio 5M. We're still constructing here, but out on the air wherever I can, and always thrilled to talk to you guys about the importance and strategic value of proper data management, no matter what you do in technology. So,
exactly.
Scott, it's a hot topic, and frankly, it's just getting more and more attention. As we get into things like in our firm at ISG, we're talking about Web 3.0, blockchain. All that means is more data, and firms like Procter and Gamble and Clorox and Caterpillar, they've got to tell their story internally. What are the structures? How would they start to tell the stories on these areas?
All these new trends that you're talking about, those are the latest. We could fill in the blanks 3 years ago, 5 years ago, 20 years ago. John, I don't know about you, but I did the math with John Boccuzzi, maybe Westfield as well. I'm in my 4th decade in the data business. That doesn't mean 40 years, but this is now my 4th decade, the 20s. It always starts at the same place. Your data has to be well structured, properly governed, expertly stewarded, build the foundation. We've been saying this thing for literally over 2 centuries.
Yeah.
I guess I'm also in my 2nd century in the data business. That sounds even more impressive. But as these new things come about, they still need that powerful structured data to run. There's just no way around it. So in the metaverse, as people go in there, do you think authenticated identity is going to be an issue? Do you think having properly structured information around brands and relationships is not going to be a problem? Of course it's going to be a problem. You got to have it. It doesn't work without it.
That's great. Yeah, I agree with you. And one of the things that's so interesting about this whole topic is, we went from what they called, Web 1.0 to Web 2.0, where everything was structured and data, they call it a data monarchy. Because, if you think about it, Facebook and Google, Yahoo, they had access to all that data. Even we joked around before this idea of, I'll whisper it, Alexa. She's always listening, right? And now with 3.0, so that data was very structured, organized, but not yours, not John Boccuzzi's, not John Westfield's, not Scott Taylor's. It kept on getting shoved up to a very small group of very wealthy firms, Amazon, et cetera. The Web 3.0 is going to be this idea of democratizing. I can't say it, but that's the word.
Democratization. Right.
Democratization.
How about everybody gets some? You could
Everybody gets some. So how as a CIO or somebody internally at one of these large enterprise firms, how do you tell that story around this is a good idea? Like, hey, it's all structured today. These are the 10 people that kind of have all access to that data, including the government, right? But now we're gonna decentralize all this, and we're gonna own and have more ability to kind of control our data. How's that all gonna work? How do you tell that story?
If you want to control that, the practical internal objective that I think someone like that is trying to accomplish is, all right, I need the funding and support and cultural change to reinforce what we're doing with data management.
Yeah.
People will begin to walk out of the room before you even finish that sentence. So to get people excited, you have to start with that wild, crazy, visionary thing that these leaders want to accomplish, and then just continue to remind them, if you want to get there, you have to start here. You can't skip any steps. The challenge we all run into when we try and tell that story is the fancy, cool, sexy, sparkly stuff is very looks tangible. I can see it. I can feel it. People are talking about it in TED Talks, and it's all over all these big consultancies and so on. But behind the scenes, it still doesn't work unless you've got the foundation built. And we just continue to run into that. But as I say in my book, you want to align anything you do in data management to the strategic intentions of your enterprise. And if the strategic intentions are the metaverse is where it's at for our brand, and okay, that's great. Here are the things you need to get there. And one of those things is always well-structured, well-managed, governed data. It just does not work. I spend my time, those things tend to be where data ends up, that people get attracted to.
Yeah.
I'm where data starts. You got to start in the right place.
Well, actually, you talk about, and you just mentioned it again, you talk about, setting the foundation for data, right? So if I'm an enterprise or I'm an executive in an enterprise, how do I know that the foundation has indeed been set? In other words, what is that litmus test that tells me that I'm far enough along to say, yeah, check mark, the foundation is set. Now I can enable the enterprise to do even more with that data because the foundation is there and it's reliable.
You look for some symptoms, some easy symptoms, that if you have a small itch, is that really the result of a much deeper problem? But it shows up in things like hierarchies aren't right. Sales and operations and finance are arguing about who the biggest customer is and where all their touch points are. Your segmentation isn't correct. You look at a pie graph of our top segments and verticals, and the biggest pie slice says other. That means the data, behind the scenes, your reporting tool is wonderful. The pie graph looks beautiful because it's this great visualization tool, but the data behind it isn't telling you what it needs to tell you because it's not structured correctly. You have duplicates. You have geographies that are messed up. You got marketing talking about the New York market, and you've got sales talking about deploying in the New York market, and you've got a syndicated data provider giving you things in the New York market. And all three of those definitions geographically are different. John knows me, JB knows me. I've been ranting like this for again, decades and decades, but those tend to be the symptoms. So you got to peel it back. Once you get into the data, there's other areas too. Your data scientists, let's say, are still complaining and whining about how they spend, 80% of their time munching and wrangling data. And, I don't know whether it's more munching or more wrangling. I forget which one is first. But all these same symptoms. And part of what I try and do in the book, and part of what I do in my, work, is get people sensitized that those things are symptoms of a deeper problem.
Yeah.
You don't solve it by making your data, allowing your data scientists to get better at wrangling. You organize it and structure it earlier in the process.
Yeah, Scott, it's a great point you're bringing up, because I think a lot of times we spend a focus and energy around a dashboard or things that will help us visualize faster information. The problem is, to your point, is all that does is gives me bad data faster if it's not structured good at the bottom, right? So we're all excited about, like, God, look at this chart. You know, in your book, you talk about the structured data, the 4 C's. Could the 4 C's, if you worked on that and thought about that, if firms were more focused on that, could that have helped us with all the supply chain issues we've had over the last year? Because I think about country and all these other things, and all of a sudden now we can't get a chip to make a car. Could the 4 C's have helped us there?
I think it helps in any of those kind of workflows. There's obviously a lot of other geopolitical and, pandemic oriented factors that dealt with supply chain. I don't think data could have solved all those.
Yeah.
But those 4 C's, and I alluded to them just now in my talk about where do you see problems. Those 4 C's, code, company, category, country, are for me the conceptual or almost symbolic elements to structuring and mastering your data. So code, everything needs a code. You have a unique identifier. Then you can validate the unique identity of a thing, whatever it is. Could be a person, could be a brand, can be a company. Doesn't matter what that thing is, but you've got a unique code. You need some sort of hierarchy structure, parent-child relationship. That's a company. You need to know what kind of thing it is. That drives segmentation. That drives targeting. So that's a category. That's that 3rd C. And just because John knows me, I try to be a bit of a poet. Just because they all start with C, you need country, or you need some form of geography. And you take a look at that, and that's how I pound it out. It's like, just start there. Do you have that on your data? Do you know where everything is? Do you know what it is? Do you know who owns it? And do you know it's unique? And if you can answer yes to all of those, then all kinds of data problems go away.
Yeah.
All kinds of data problems go away.
Well, and that's what I mean. When you take out the geopolitical stuff and everything else, if people had really structured data in those 4 areas and really understood it, then the dashboard that we all get excited about actually might have started to share signals of issues.
Right. Yeah.
And we could have modified how we were going to get a supply chain to work. Right. That's what I'm talking about. That's what data is good about. It's not like I don't need the data to tell me the good news about being out of stock. I'm out of stock. I needed the data to tell me something sooner than that.
An early warning system. Right?
I'm just laughing about out of stock because I remember early in my career, I supposed started in the grocery-oriented business, and I remember going to a conference and somebody getting up and saying, "I can't believe I'm talking about out of stocks. We've been talking about it forever," and that was 30 years ago. So that's one of those. I went to Walmart. I took a picture of it. I was in Walmart not that long ago. I guess it was before the pandemic, so everything's kind of a blur. I'm in Walmart. They've got a sale on cornflakes. It's out of stock, and I'm like, Walmart cornflakes out of stock. Why are we even doing this anymore?
How does that happen?
What's it all about? We can't even get that right. I mean, I get, a little fancy little product, but what's next? No Coca-Cola? It's just really, gang. We gotta step it up. And data, as we know, helps anticipate those things, whatever you're looking for, triggers, alerts, insight. It all starts with that structured data.
That's great.
I think it's sort of interesting. Last time we talked to you around a year ago, obviously data has always been important, but to me, it's even moved more front and center, given what's happened over the last 18 to 24 months. And companies are talking about supply chain issues and all sorts of other things that maybe are a little bit out of their control, somewhat in their control, but maybe a little bit out of their control. But if they had better data, they certainly would be able to better communicate about it. So I would assume that, the business that you're in has actually boomed because people have now, if they didn't realize it before, they've certainly realized now just how important data is, timely data, relevant data, and that's really key, right?
I think it was if somebody, whoever will do the study on how enterprises survived or thrived through the pandemic, those that had better data did better. It's just right now, it's just my logic. But you look at some of the anecdotal evidence, if you were not able to connect with everybody and we were all scattered all over the world, if you had better customer data, then your team, your go-to-market team understood that customer. If they didn't, then it was a mess. The companies that are always the winners, Netflix, Amazon, Uber, Airbnb, they all live off of highly structured data. Things don't work without it. there was an article about the fast casual and quick service restaurant category that really transformed, that really stepped up, having to go from almost all on-site consumption to more takeout and delivery. And that took a lot of data. And, finding out, okay, we don't have, forget about what we call a quarter pounder with cheese in France. We don't even have a common structure for it. We don't have a common identifier across our franchise base. I'm just talking, referring to McDonald's or anybody else, but they all kind of, a lot of them stepped up on that. And that's not going away, right? A lot of these advancements that just were accelerated, they're not going away. Teledoc, or telemedicine. Do you think they're going to stop putting QR codes on restaurant tables? For your menu? Or did they realize, we don't have to print a menu all the time. Everybody who comes in here has got a phone. Why do we need to do this?
Exactly.
I go, let's go back to the paper menu. And then we'll reprint that. So these,
because that was efficient.
Yeah. And, and we all know this was the QR code. Talk about a 50-year overnight success. Finally got its day.
Hey, Scott, we got a question from the audience from Jim. He's asking, how about commitment to keeping it sanitary and accurate over the long term? And you talk all about that, and talk to us about
how about that commitment. Really, Jim? How about it? That's what we need. I mean, I wrote a whole book about why that's important. Whether it's sanitary, whether it's high quality, whether it's structured, whatever you try to call it, it's still the piece parts that make everything else go. And if you think about digital transformation, which is that overarching concept that a lot of organizations hang their strategies around, I try to boil that down to its essence that's relevant to every type of enterprise. And so from my perspective, digital transformation is providing value to your relationships through your brands at scale. I tried to, John, I tried to how few words can I say it? So relationships. And so because of that, if you're going to provide value to relationships, you have to have great data about your relationships. You have to have data about your brands to be able to do that. If you want to do it at scale, scale means technology, hardware, software, data. If you have data, you need data management and story. And I'm trying to figure out the shortest way to describe it, but it always comes back to that. And I've yet to find somebody who breaks it. And I'm challenging anybody out there to tell me that what they want to do in technology doesn't take well-structured data. I'd like to see what you're talking about. Because
Scott, you know what? You bring up a great point, because I think where a lot of times we focus in the marketplace around digital transformation is the at scale component. But what gets scary is, again, bad information at scale is just bad information.
Bad information.
Yeah, exactly.
It's just, another question from the audience: how much data products can help in improving efficiencies and customer understanding? So the idea is, are there solutions? You don't have to give us the names of the ones you like most, but are people coming up with solutions to help out with this whole area of data management?
I'm wondering what that, whoever asked that, this term data products is out there now. It doesn't mean what you and I grew up with. Like people selling a product that's made of data. I worked at Nielsen, worked at Dun & Bradstreet, Kantar, these iconic data companies that have products that they license that are made of data. This new terminology, which I find extremely confusing, talks about it, some sort of deliverable that's made of data within an organization. And so it's not really a product like we think of it as something that somebody buys or delivers. And even my struggle to articulate it here is proof, I think, of the confusion that this kind of terminology brings to the marketplace. And if you went to a CEO and used the current terminology about how a lot of people pitch data, they would say, we want to monetize our data products. And then any business person would go, we're going to sell data? No. When I say monetize, I don't really mean money. All right. You lost them already. I don't really mean money. I mean, capturing value in a certain way, and it will provide, the essence of
like hyper personalization, for example, right?
Yeah. So that's monetization. I mean, again, the root of monetization is money. So if you use a word monetize and you're talking to a business person, they're going to think you're talking about cash. And then you back it up and go, no, I don't really mean monetize. I don't really mean product like a product. It's like, what the hell do you mean?
Leverage, right?
This comes back to one of my guiding principles of why I even do the work I do, which is one of the biggest things holding the data and technology space back is the way we talk about it.
Interesting. Yeah,
it's
the communication,
words we use and language we use, and this need to create new terms for old problems and bicker with each other about who's coming up with the coolest way to say something. And meanwhile, we're just talking to ourselves so much. And a business person walks in and goes, what?
So your sweet spot is in between that CIO and the board level to kind of get the conversation from the business, so the business people can understand all these other terminology. How we're
going to CIO or the data office now. I mean, luckily, I think, and this is a development that I think is really positive for all the work that all of us do, the personification of the ownership of data around the CDO, the chief data officer. Where's that been, right? A data department, that data should be looked at separately from technology. And that helps people get more value out of it.
So Scott, for those people that don't know and didn't see the last show, there is the introduction of puppets to help keep the story really, really simple. And I wanted to ask the question, do you still use your puppets?
Of course I still use my puppets. I have grand plans of, for those of you who don't know, it's my puppet show, Too Much Tech Talk. Check it out on YouTube. It's my biggest hit, but we have grand plans for a kind of epic serialized version of that once I get it off the ground, starring the CDO, the chief dog officer, the ITB, who speaks only in buzzwords. They're hiring a cat sultan from Meow Kinsey. There's all kinds of crazy stuff going on. So it'll be this, and I'm doing a little bit of stunt casting. I can't give too much away, sort of a la Simpsons, where I'm going to some serious like data influencers and having them play what will essentially be a mild, loving parody of themselves. And so far, people are signing up and on board. So I got a lot of work to do after we get the studio here all set up. But
that's cool.
It could not be funner. I mean, there's
absolutely
in the data business.
Yeah, we're gonna we'll share the link to some of those YouTubes on this feed. So anybody that wants to watch any of those, we'll make sure we share a few of those for sure.
Mandatory viewing for anybody in the data business.
Well, we talk about this all the time. So in our business, we talk about, forget data for just a second. Let's just talk about IT in general, right? People tend to complicate. They talk in gobbledygook. They talk in all sorts of acronyms and stuff. And quite frankly, it should be in business terms and understandable. So we're constantly reinforcing and underscoring that people need to basically keep it simple, uncomplicated, uncomplicate the dialogue, right?
Yeah. We're so, and I say, when I say we, sort of think of the whole technology space, data, software versus kind of the business stuff. We're just so enamored with so many that we love to talk about how we do things.
Yeah.
Well, we tried it this way, then we did this, then we looked at this, then we looked at that. I mean, John and I are sales guys from way back. Don't talk about their benefits. And can you imagine a salesperson coming back like a data scientist would report and saying, well, first I did this, and then I did this, and then we tried this, and that didn't work. And then it's like, did they buy it or not? Is this valuable or not? Can I do something with this or not? So this, I'm trying to see if there's a way to break through this. Do you know of any other department that constantly has to remind itself that what it's doing is supposed to bring value to the business? Does marketing say that to themselves? Do you have a bunch of marketers sitting around saying, what we really need to do? We have to bring value to the business or finance. It's like, that's what we do.
It's the definition. It's the inherent definition of enabling support is really what it is, right?
Like, well, what else are you doing? So I find, and go through LinkedIn, go through, my favorite place to play, and what we really need to do is talk about business value.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. You don't have the finance department trying to, defend its existence every year.
Yeah.
But there's a lot of data departments that struggle with that.
So Scott, do you think this, data office inside of firms, inside of a Caterpillar, et cetera, 10 years ago, supply chain people were in the basement of buildings, it was an afterthought. Yeah,
Right.
we expect stuff to get from A to B, not an important person, put them in the basement. And now, and now the supply chain people are up in the office, top floor. Is that where data should sit as well? Because they're stuck in the basement right now, right?
Yeah. I mean, it's not. I think it's rising. The reason I'm picking on us, the big us again, is because I know how much potential we really have.
Yeah.
So while I'm flipping around and say, okay, you see no other department that's sitting there trying to just, pontificate about how much value it should bring to the organization, flip that around or actually put it perpendicular and say, give me another department that could bring value to every other part of the organization.
Yeah.
So if you've got the right kind of data foundation, and when I'm talking about, you got those 4 C's, you've got a great customer master, let's say, that feeds every vertical area in your organization. Marketing needs it, sales needs it, operation, finance, legal, executive. So the data is truly a horizontal piece of value across an enterprise and can literally bring value to every part of an organization in some way, either directly or indirectly, and sometimes with the same record. So tell me another part of the organization that can even make that claim.
Scott, it just, there's so many good examples of people that do this exceptionally, like a Tesla. Tesla can think about being in the insurance business because of the way they organize and structure their data for selling cars. Like, that's mind blowing. So why aren't more people looking at these examples and saying, well, geez, we're a hotel chain. We have tremendous information about how people engage in life. So what do you need? How do they bounce? Is this storytelling, again, the book, how can you help them bounce to this spot where they really start to understand the value here?
Yeah.
And examples are there.
I always start with the foundation. I mean, you've said it 15 times, if that's right, and get your basic blocking, tackling down, get your hierarchies right, get your segmentation right, get your duplicates out of there, make sure it's feeding everybody, make sure you've got, some sort of competent set of accountabilities that say you can't just, type I don't know into something and then look for those problems that you can start to solve. And for me too, I guess maybe I'm a little more parochial, but that I think part of what you're kind of touching on, John, is this idea that everybody's a data company.
Yeah.
Again, we can monetize our data. Like, let's get back to reality. First of all, again, I try to be I try not to be wishy-washy. Is everybody a data company? No. That's like saying everybody's a paperclip company because you all have. No, you're not a data company. Nielsen was a data company.
Yeah.
DB's a data company. But if I make widgets, I'm a widget manufacturer. Data will help me make widgets better, distribute them, market them, optimize them, innovate, all those wonderful things. But that doesn't make me that company. That's not what I do for a living. And I find that kind of conversation extremely distracting too.
Interesting.
You walk, the worst case, I should probably do an example of like the worst way to pitch data at an organization. Well, we're going to monetize our data products because everybody's a data company and it's all about the people and we're going to change the culture. And it's like, whoa. I just think it comes on so strong.
Yeah.
And I think, when you're talking to people who know nothing about it or are a little bit apprehensive or have seen other disasters and you're starting to say, you need to be data literate and we're changing the culture and that's the only way it works. It's like, can we just try this? See how it's going? Does that mean time's over? I heard the cuckoo clock.
No, that's John. That's John's clocks. Hey, okay. I got a question. Are you a marathoner? I don't understand this.
My marathon? No, I couldn't. I have I think you're referring to the Master Data Marathon next week. I'm a marathoner and I can't run 26.2 hours, but obviously I can talk for 26.2 hours. So around the world and around the clock, the Master Data Marathon next week with the fabulous folks at Think Linkers right here from Studio 4G. And we're doing a 26.2 hour event. It's a global. We got 57 folks representing 57 countries. That's a record for us. And we stay up all night. Master Data keeps people up all night. And this time we're doing it for the right reasons. It'll be fun. And we bring all kinds. We've got all kinds of great brands: Unilever, Heinz, Honeywell, Schneider Electric. We've got Amazon is talking. We got some great brands talking all about the power and value of better data management, whatever context. And then I'm just the host and MC, keeping people focused on the truth.
That sounds like a lot of fun. It really does.
Yeah, so that's fun. So thanks for the tip off there, John. But
we'll share a link. We'll share a link on that as well on this feed, because I think that sounds like a lot of fun.
It does.
And to have all those types of brands in the discussion around data is spectacular.
I saw we have a 2-minute warning, so I did want to share this relic.
Look at that.
From way back. This is, for those of you who follow John Boccuzzi as closely as I do, this is pre-Ruth. You can tell by the glasses.
Good stuff, Scott. That's awesome. Well, thank you so much for being a guest on the show.
Thank you, Scott. As always,
I will see you in exactly 20 episodes.
There you go. Thank you, Scott.
Thanks again, everybody.
Thanks.
That was fun.
Take care. He's amazing. He's amazing. He's entertaining. The time goes by way too fast, right?
It does. It does. And I love the simplicity around the message, right? We don't have to overcomplicate this stuff. So definitely I learn something each and every time. It's a good reminder for us around data and telling that story. So John, what do we got coming up?
So, hey, in 2 weeks, it's hard to believe to say this, but on April 14th, we have an episode that is fully dedicated to sustainability. You know, that has truly moved front and center these days. You hear that, 2022 is the year of corporate responsibility. So sustainability will be front and center. And we have 2 ISG experts that will be talking with us about that. We have Rob Brindley and Ane Nawati. So I'm very excited about that coming up in 2 weeks.
Awesome. That is great. Well, listen, have a great afternoon. It's always wonderful to see you, John.
You too. Great show. Thank you, JB. Thanks, our listeners. Take care. Bye.